Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Job. And first of all, I want to say a big thank you for all those people that listen to this because when I first started it, I just did it just to start sharing things and just talking about my experiences and to, share that so that it helps people. And I love it that people listen to it, get stuff out of it, hopefully share it. And yeah, so I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who listen to this. And please, please, please keep spreading the word, spread it out, share it. And yeah, let's see how many people we can get listening to it. I really, really do love it. And it goes to show me that actually, when you want something, you just got to have an idea. You've got to go out, do it imperfectly. This doesn't, I'll be totally honest, this doesn't take me very long to do. I love doing it. I love talking. I love learning concepts as I go through life and sharing them. But then I don't edit it. I don't do anything. Literally just do it on Zoom, upload it, and then put it straight in the Buzzsprout. And I'm the most least technical person. And I see people taking hours and hours and hours to get episodes up and running, even recording them taking hours, all the editing, all to getting the perfect fucking question and all that. And that ain't me. I know if I did that, I wouldn't do it. So yeah, so if you're thinking about doing a podcast, you got something you want to talk about, give me a shout. We'll talk about it and show you how to get going quickly. But today, what we're going to talk about is boundaries. Oh, do you know what I find is I hear all this term whenever I hear terminology in anything, like I said, every area of life or business has its own terminology, and I fucking hate it. Um, I used to hate it in the Marines when I went down to Limpster, I didn't get through. Um, but when I went down there, she gives a book of terminology to use so that you all speak in the same and all that. And I've always rebelled from that. I think it's just because I like being an individual, I like being myself. And sometimes that's hard, but sometimes that's fucking challenging because we got the expectations of life and what people expect of us and the fear of if we don't, you know, go along with the social norm, what's going to happen in the future. But I've always been like, oh, I hate that. And some of the words I hear in the sort of coaching space and just in life in general is like when people are talking about triggered and violated boundaries and all this sort of stuff. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it seems to be like we get buzzwords and then we chuck them around, and then what they do is they lose their strength because everyone's saying it because things do trigger us. It's not the event that causes us the problem. It's not that because the same event may not bother someone else. I like to think of it as actually more of a stimulus than a trigger because a trigger suggests that this event is the cause of how we're feeling and how we're acting, which means we don't have any control over it. Whereas when you realize this is the stimulus and then we've got a response, and then as Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning, there's a space between the two, between the stimulus and response, which is how we think and feel in the moment, and that's how we get the control. But yeah, I've heard so many people, and because some people if you've experienced trauma, you're going to be triggered, aren't you? So it's not to demean it and say, look, when you say it, oh, it's a bad thing. Because if you've experienced something really horrific, like many people do in the police, um, yeah, or just in life in general, if something's happened, someone's not been very nice to you, whatever it is, then things trigger us. I know how the brain works. It it remembers cues. It remembers the environment. It goes, can you remember what happened last time here? And if that's good, then it wants to do it again. If it's bad, it wants to avoid it. And that's really all that triggering is. Because triggering could be positive as well, can't it? I think we always think of it as negative. But like if you suddenly Friday night is like movie night, like it is for us on like most Fridays, and we have a pizza, then suddenly around 4 o'clock, I'm getting excited and I'm anticipating having that pizza and sitting down with my boys. And you could say, I've been triggered, as in like this environment, my brain has gone, I remember what happens here. And now it's now running the program. But what we do is we always see it negatively. we see triggers as like all the negative stuff, like this person triggers me. And but just understanding, going off on a bit of fucking tangent here, but just understanding that what has happened is you've had an experience with that person, your brain's given that a meaning at that time, and it's gone, actually, this is dangerous. Say like someone criticizes you. I think it's a classic. Say like you've got someone that really probably hasn't spoken to you very nicely or whatever, and they've criticized you. And because of your beliefs, you fear failure, you rely on other people for your self-confidence, so you need reassurance. And now this person has gone against that. Then what your brain does is goes, I'm gonna remember you because you're bad. And it thinks, and what it does, it creates this feeling in the moment to go, that was bad. We don't like this experience. And then that becomes a memory. And then in future meetings with that person, what will happen is your brain will go, I remember you. That was a bad experience last time. And then it starts creating anxiety and fear. But this is the irony of being triggered is the reason it had that response in the moment is because of what our brain made it mean. And now what our brain is doing is warning us of that event happening again. So it's basically warning us of an emotion and then it's creating the anxiety. So this is where I help people get the control back because people go, oh, actually, that's sort of victim blaming, and you're pushing it, you're pushing it all on to us and not on them. You go, well, you can't control them. And I've had people that I would go, fuck me, they've triggered me. I want to bloody stamp on their head every time I see them, and they get me so irate. But then I realized actually it wasn't they got me irate. It was because of what I was thinking at the time. They were not in line with my values. But the big thing was they didn't feel my frustration. It was like drinking poison, hoping it would kill them. It literally had no effect on them. It feels justified, but it didn't. But as soon as I acknowledged, like, why is that person triggering me? What is it about it? What's happened in the past that has made my brain go, they're they're a bad person, and then you address those things like fear of judgment. If someone said something, say someone's criticized your work, and actually what they've done is squeezed out a lack of belief that you already hold, then you work on that. And what you'll find is you'll be triggered a lot less. And when you are, you'll recognize it as something as that's going on internally rather than externally. Because what we do is we focus on that external because we think something's gone wrong, want to avoid them. But that actually leaves us disempowered and not very confident. um, yeah, and but some of these words, I think we hear them all the time. We hear triggered, we hear I've set a boundary because this person triggers me and then they violated my boundary. And I think because we hear it so much, it waters it down for people that aren't actually genuinely really affected by this stuff. Um, so what I want to focus on, obviously, we've been talking about triggering, which is really important, which is really relevant because what we're going to be talking about is boundaries and how to set them. Because I've noticed that people people don't really understand boundaries. And actually, the way I teach them is very different. And I've not met anyone yet that goes, oh yeah, yeah, I do it the same. Apart from I learned this sort of method through the life coach school I train with, and it is so different because what a lot of people do is they set a boundary, and that could be anything. I've seen it like when people go, this person shouldn't call me on my day off. I've seen people that are called at home on their day off, on their birthdays, no less, by like their supervisor who knows it's their day off. And they've said that, this, they don't even really communicate this boundary. They just say they shouldn't call me. They shouldn't call me on my day off. But then this person calls them anyway. And then they pick up the phone, talk to them for 40 minutes, and then complain about that the other person's violated their boundary. Now, first of all, you got to think, did you communicate it to start with? Did you communicate Did that person know they shouldn't call you on your day off? And often people go, no. And what we do is, I refer to this as a manual. Now we have this manual, this rule book. So we set this boundary and we've got this rule book of how the other person should react and respond, but then we don't tell them. And even if we did, we give them this rule book, often what happens is they don't do it exactly as we would like. And I remember coaching someone once and he had a boundary with someone and he said to them, please don't, it's actually like a relationship. And they said, please don't call me. Don't, I want some space. I want some, I want some time when you don't call. And they called. And then they spoke to them for like 45 minutes and then complained about that the person had called. And what we showed them was like sort of asked like why did you answer that call? Or even if it's from a number you didn't know and you picked up and you realized, why didn't you say, oh, I'm sorry, it's my day off, I can't speak. Or in that instance, I've told you not to call, so I'm going to end this call, and then put a temporary block on the number. Why don't we do that? Because that's what we should be doing. And a lot of people go, well, why should I have to change? It's uncomfortable. But it's that discomfort we want to move through because that's the other side of that is where our confidence lies. And the fact is, people don't listen to our boundaries. People don't. It's like if you put a fence up around your front garden, it shows to the majority of people, don't come in my garden, it's private. But you'll always get someone that will hop over the fence. Maybe they kick a ball over or do whatever and they hop over. And there's some people, like your burglars and all that, they don't have any respect for any of those boundaries and they just come straight in. Now, we could sit there and go, oh my goodness, this is terrible. They've violated my boundary. They've literally hopped over my fence and now they're in my garden. And it'd literally be like looking out of your window, just complaining that this person's in your garden. But actually, what you do is you would go out and then you would set a consequence for them being in there. And this is what a boundary is. A boundary is not about controlling the other person. A lot of people, when they come to me, I go, you could set a boundary, and they go, because I'll be honest, especially in the public sector or any sort of job, if you don't set boundaries, you're going to be stressed, burnt out, walked over. And the reason we don't set them is because of our fear of fitting in and being criticized and all this sort of stuff. But what people do is they set boundaries to try and control the other person. So, say someone is always interrupting them, phoning them, times they don't want to be phoned, asking them to stay on all the time. You've stayed on and you're fucked and you're knackered and you don't want to stay on. What they do is they go, actually, like I say, often we don't even really set it. We just go, we just say they shouldn't do it and talk about to other people about it. We don't even communicate it. But just say they do set the boundary. It's like, you must not call me. And you think, well, that's trying to control their behavior, which good luck with that if you can do it. And sometimes people may adhere to it, but often what I see is they don't. So a boundary shouldn't be about changing their behavior. It should be about what you do when they exhibit that behavior. And this is what people find difficult because they go, well, I've set my boundary is I'm telling you not to call me on my day off about work because I need to rest. And you communicate that, and then the person goes, okay. Then they go, oh, but this is really urgent. And they call you. Then you answer that phone and get caught up, and then you get really frustrated. Basically, when you're setting your boundary to try and control the other person, you lose all control. It is as simple as that. You lose all your control and you'll be stressed and resentful, pissed off, and all the rest. What a boundary should be is like, if you do this, I'm going to do this. So it's not about controlling the other person, it's about getting control back for you. And then what you'll find is where people will fall down is enforcing that boundary. So I had one when I was being interrupted. If I was working on a bit of work, I would be like, I'd set a boundary of like, you couldn't interrupt me. And I had conditions around that, just unless it's really, really urgent, like life threatening, had to be addressed right now. So if I'm working an hour on a report, if something's going to happen within that time, then I'll interrupt it. But that'd be my boundary. And I might sometimes communicate that with people. I say, oh, I'm working on this at the moment. So unless it's really urgent, can you not disturb me for an hour? People would still disturb me. I would then have to go, is it urgent? And they might go, yeah, yeah, it's really okay. When's it got to be done by? Oh, and one person actually said this. They actually burst into an office where I was working. I went, I said, oh, what do you want? Oh, I got this. It's really urgent. Oh, no, because they just taken a phone call. I said, oh, is it like, when's it got to be done? By the way, what? When do you need the answer? What, 2 weeks' time? I got to respond to this. Okay. So it's urgent to them because they just got off this call and feeling anxious, but it wasn't actually urgent. Now, I had actually removed myself, put myself in a room, set this boundary, don't interrupt me. And then I'd been interrupted. That's how life works. But then I could just enforce that boundary and say, I'm not going to answer that right now. If it's not, I understand how you're feeling, but this is more important than that. I'll get back to you in an hour. But what happens when we do that is we feel a discomfort. And the reason we try and control the other person is because we don't want to feel that discomfort. That's why we do it. Because if the other person adhered to our rule book, our manual, then what would happen is we wouldn't have to face that discomfort. And it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? If you just told everyone, oh, can you not do this? Because that I don't like that. That upsets me. Can you not do this? Yeah, not do that because that upsets me. And actually, can you do that because I like that? We're reliant on everyone else. And most of those people aren't in control of their own bloody life, let alone ours. So the boundary is really about going, this is my line in the sand. If you cross it, this is what I'm going to do. Now, excuse me, what it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be done from a place of frustration. And this is where I call this emotional childhood, emotional adulthood. It's a terminology I sort of came through coaching with, is like you should be emotional adulthood is when it's not that you don't feel the frustration and all that, but you take responsibility for it and realize that you're creating it. That frustration is in you already. And what they've done is they've squeezed it out of you. That fear you feel about enforcing the boundary is in you. And what they've done is they've just squeezed it out. So what we don't want to do is be setting it from a place of, fuck you, you did this, I'm going to do this. We want to be setting our boundaries from a place of unconditional love. So it's a place of like, I know I can see what you're going through. I can see that's really important to you, but actually, I need this time. I need this time at the moment. This is more important, and I'll get back to you. And it's about having some compassion and going, I understand. Like we've all been there, haven't we? Something's on our mind and we want to offload it. And it's about going, yeah, I've been there too. I get it. But I need to enforce this boundary. And you have to know your why. Why are you enforcing it? Because if you're just enforcing it for no reason, like if you're putting a fence around something just to keep people off because you don't want people there enjoying themselves, that's not great, is it? But if you're going, actually, I'm putting this fence around because people are damaging it and I want to protect it, that's different. So that why is key. I always think of like when everyone got their ass in the hand about the people stopping the wild camping on Dartmoor. But everyone thought so that was basically a landowner who'd set a boundary of what he did was because we actually met a farmer who was really friendly with him because everyone thought, oh, what he's done is he's just big, rich landowner, bought up all this parkland in Dartmoor and then's kicking everyone off. When in truth, what happened was he bought it and he didn't, and you're supposed to clean up after you wild camp and people were coming up, parking on the side of the road and then leaving all their shit everywhere. And I think he put things in place to try and stop that. So that was his boundary. People went over that, so then he enforced his boundary by going to court and making it illegal to wild camp. Now I think what he does is the people that are really going into the moor and those people that are being respectful, he doesn't bother them. But he did it to stop the other people. Now, those people could still come and do it, but as a consequence, they get fined, they get arrested. Well, you're not arrested, a bit harsh, but they get fined, and there you go. There's the consequence. So it's like anything, it's like a law, isn't it? So this is before going to that, this is the thing, like that boundary he set isn't everyone thinks, oh, it's from a place of control. You just want this place to yourself, but actually it's because he bought the land to get it back to its sort of former glory and trying to keep it really nice. And other people were ruining that. So he did it. So that intention behind the boundary is key. If you're thinking this person's an asshole and I'm going to set it to punish you, that's not right, in my opinion. And it's only going to feel bad for you. It's not a boundary is not to punish. A boundary is actually to help improve relationships because it's like, this is what I need. I'm going to put a boundary around that. If you come across it, I'm going to enforce that. And then what will happen is your relationship will get better. But what people do is they don't like setting boundaries and then they try and control the other person. And inevitably, the person doesn't do what they want. So then what they do is one of two things. They become a people pleaser, as in they drop their boundaries altogether and just get walked over because they go, well, there's no point, and just let everyone interrupt them and they have no yeah, they're just not focusing on what they should be doing and end up working on late and all these things, or they put up massive walls because they don't like that confrontation, that feeling, that enforcing the boundary. They put up a huge wall so then no one come near them. And that's even worse because that affects the relationship. Either one affects the relationship. Because if people are just using you and going, oh, yeah, I can just ask them to do anything and they'll drop it and help me, actually, I don't think that's a healthy relationship. And also, when you put this huge wall where people can't ask, then that's not healthy. Because I find like just because I set boundaries, when people ask if it's genuinely urgent, I'll put down what I'm doing. But what it does, it gives me the space and control I need in my life. And I set them with everything. I set them with family when I'm doing some work because people just work from home at the moment. People walk in and just start talking about shit that they think is important. Can't get on the bloody Game Pass and Xbox playing up and stuff like that. And you have to be able to say, I'm working right now. Or you can go, I can't answer that. Is this urgent? Yeah, yeah, oh, it's really urgent because it's really frustrating me. All right, just because it's frustrating you doesn't automatically make it urgent. So I'm gonna have to get back to you. And what you'll find is people will people will get people. Sorry, I'm messing with my volume there a bit. Uh, People will get a bit upset by it. But this is where the emotional childhood, emotional adulthood comes in. Because emotional childhood is when we think we're responsible for how everyone else feels. So we go, oh, I'm making them feel bad. My boundary is making them feel really bad. And now I'm a bad person. But you realize how they receive that is really down to them, not you. And this is why you communicate that boundary and you set that boundary and communicate it and enforce it from a place of love and not frustration, because then you're doing it with a good intention from a good place. And actually you can have compassion if that person then gets a bit, oh God, really, oh, that's, they think it's rude or whatever. You can have compassion for that, but you don't have to take that on. But what often happens is people think sort of resist that and go, oh no, that's not a very nice way to approach it because you're sort of saying you don't care about how they feel. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're not responsible because some people will respect that boundary and be okay with it and others won't. That is the truth. But what happens is when you don't do it this way, what I find is happening more is people set a boundary from frustration. The other person then comes in, violates that boundary, so they ignore it and just plow on through. Then we act from a place of frustration towards them. Then they get frustrated back, and everyone's frustrated anyway. So everyone's fucking frustrated. And then relationships really fractured. We might go and slag them off to someone. Whereas when we can just go, actually, this is why I'm setting it. I really like my reason for setting this boundary. Why am I doing it? Because I've got to get this piece of work done. And it's really important for this victim, for this client, whatever it is. And if I get this work done, I get to go home and spend time with my family. If I let people interrupt me with unimportant shit all day, I'm now going to have to stay on late and get this done. So I like my reason for that. So then you set your boundary from that. Oh, this feels good. This is why I've got this boundary. Then someone comes in and violates it, just ignores it. Maybe they didn't know about it. Maybe they did and they've just interrupted anyway. And then you can go from that same place of love and compassion, going, if it's not urgent, I'm not going to be able to get back to you. I'm not going to be able to deal with it right now because I've got this on that's actually really important. And also, I need to get off on time today. So, what can we pick that up tomorrow? And, oh, no, no, it's really urgent. Yeah. But when's it got to be answered? Okay. Yeah. But I'm not going to be able to switch off. I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to be thinking about this all night. Okay. Then I can probably help you with that. This is where I always come from. But I go, okay, but that is not that just that doesn't make it urgent. That's sort of like a them problem, which they have to work through, and then you can focus on what you're working on. Otherwise, you're going to be totally interrupted by everyone, and you're going to be the one that suffers and gets frustrated. So that's how I feel that when you're really clear with these boundaries and you know how to set them, and the big thing is you know how to feel the discomfort from enforcing them, you get your control back. But it takes practice. It is uncomfortable to start with. I remember when I first did it, I was booking in some what called DPR, some property, and I had this big bag of stuff, and I was like, I've got to get this done. I want to be off on time. And the people that were coming up and just like you're clearly busy, getting bags of shit everywhere, and they're not coming up saying, "Can I help you with that?" They're asking you about something else, which isn't urgent. Just but these inquiries weren't urgent. And when I first decided to go, unless it's urgent, I can't answer that. I've got to do this. And you get that, oh, got to book an appointment to speak to John now, and all that to start with. And you feel this discomfort. But what would do is I would set this boundary, feel that discomfort, and then I'd measure the benefits. And then when I was at home with my kids, sat on the sofa having pizza, watching a movie, I'd be like, that's why I did that. That's why I did it. And what I found was those people that often said, oh, we've got to book an appointment to be with John and all this, my relationship with them actually got better. Because I remember someone once I was working away and someone said, oh, John, can I have a minute? And I turned around because I wasn't really engaged in anything that needed massive focus. I went, yeah, yeah. And they went, oh, you sure you got time? They went to say that sentence, are you sure you got time? And they stopped themselves. They went, are you sure you? And I went, and then they stopped themselves and went, no, I know you tell me if you didn't. And they actually said after, it's nice to know that when I was saying yes, they knew I actually had time, was fully engaged. Whereas I've seen people that are always available. My door is always open. And you see those people, you may be one of them. And when you're talking to them, what's really going on in the head is get to the fucking point. I'm not really interested. Get it done. And they're hurrying you on. Come on, come on, come on. Get to the point. And they got a face like thunder because you've interrupted them. And then you walk away and they probably go, oh God, I can't believe they interrupted me with that. Or because they didn't want to appear rude. But now, because they didn't know how to set a boundary and didn't set a boundary, they're actually being rude because they're talking about you when you're not there and they've rushed you. So it's something really to think about is if you're not setting boundaries and feeling that discomfort because you don't want to upset people, how are you responding to that person when they are interrupting you? How are you responding to them after? How do you feel when they're walking in the room? You're looking up going, oh, fuck, here they come. And um, is that the way you want to treat people? Is that the way you want to be treated? And I always think, imagine if someone could hear all what was going on in our mind. Imagine you could just hear, you had subtitles above your head. What would you prefer? Would you prefer to see as you walked in, subtitles above someone's head going, oh, um, boundary set. I'm working on some really important work. If it's urgent, I'll get back to you. If it's urgent, I'll address it now. But if it's not life or death, then I'm going to get back to you in an hour. Or would you prefer to hear, oh, fuck me, here they come. Bloody hell. Hi, yeah, 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 go on, tell me. And then deep down you're going, come on, get to the point. You're boring me. Come on. Oh God, this isn't even really important. They're waffling. And then, okay, yeah, thanks. And then as they go off, you would then hear that, God, did you hear that load of shit? Which one would you prefer? And I tell you now, what builds better relationships is good boundaries because it builds trust. And where I think people are going wrong is um, they want to be liked rather than trusted. They want everyone to like them. So you don't want to upset them. You don't want to set these boundaries. But actually, I found it's trust we want to build. I don't want to be liked by everyone. I can't be liked by everyone because I can't please everyone. If I want to be liked by everyone, I'm trying to please everyone. Whereas when I go, actually, what I want to be is trusted. I want to be, I want people to know that when I say I'm going to help, I'm going to help. When I can't help, they know it's for a good reason. And that's definitely a value or quality I prefer than just being liked. Because if you want to be liked by everyone, oh, that is going to lead to a painful life, in my opinion. So there we go. That is my take on boundaries. And as always, if you decide, if you go, oh, I want to know a bit more about this, please get in touch. Um, I'm on, you probably know I'm on social media on Instagram, Johnny Bevan, on LinkedIn, the same. Johnny Bevan, the police burnout coach at the moment, although I think about changing that. Um, but yeah, if you just put in Johnny Bevan, you'll see me on there and just drop us a message. If you've got any questions about it, yes, I work with people one on one, but don't think that you can't ask a question. A lot of people go, oh, almost like I'm going to be trapped into coming and working with you. That's not the case. I'm very choosy about who I work with anyway, very picky, because it's not for everyone. So if you just want a conversation, just let me know that you just want a conversation. And then, yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen. And on the flip side, if you are someone that goes, actually, I want to take a deeper dive on this because this is definitely where the change comes, you're one of those sort of 5% of people that go, yeah, I'm going to grab this by the balls and actually make a difference in my life, then, you only ever got to reach out. We can talk about that as well. But I hope you enjoyed that. Go out, set some boundaries, set them. Come on. It's yes, it will be uncomfortable, but your life's probably uncomfortable anyway because you're not setting them. Take it steady and have a good one. Bye bye.